Hello, BookTube. I have some new arrivals for you. Some books that are coming out or are out already, or maybe a little ways down the line. All sorts of subjects. Some may be of interest to you more than they are me. Some we've seen on this channel before. Some we have not. A lot of these things were opened off camera. I'm hoping that you will forgive. To sort of sweet talk you, I've got a beautiful look at the bean there, who's squeaky clean from her bath, and who's a little bit tired because it's a beautiful day here in Boston. It's mid-70s Fahrenheit with bright blue skies and warm, inviting sunlight. I don't know how many more shots at this kind of weather we will get before it is just gripingly cold until, May or April. But we've been out many, many times. And one of the times that we were out, we went to a little unofficial dog park. It's not a dog park, it's just a park, but a lot of the people in the neighborhood use it to bring their dogs there and let them romp around. It's a far enough distance from any of the chain link on any side so that you don't really have to worry about them getting away unless your dog is spectacularly poorly behaved. I never take Frida to dog congregating places like that because she's weird around dogs. She loves humans. She's not aggressive around dogs, but she's weird around them. She doesn't know what they are. She mostly wants to examine them in the way that a budding psychopath would examine a member of their own species. And I took her there anyway. I figure I won't let her off the leash. I will keep an eye to make sure that no one causes trouble with her. And one of the dogs in the park was another miniature schnauzer. Beautiful little thing. Black all over except for white feet. Totally different. No gray at all like Frida has. And that romping like that, even to the limited extent that she understands what's going on, tired her out a little, bless her. But I've got a stack of these things that I opened off camera, but that I want to show to you because they're interesting in various ways. The first of which is this beautiful Mariner Books reprint of Mateo Askaripour's 2021, I think, novel, Black Buck. Just a lovely trade paperback from Mariner Books. It's a funny story. I remember liking it in 2021. I bet I would like it even more now. I'm very happy to have another shot at it, a chance to read it all over again. It's on one level biting satire about a feckless young man who's pretty content. I think he's probably drawn liberally from the author's own youth, who gets hired as the only black person in one of those gung-ho 15-hour-a-day Masters of the Universe startups in the city. And he's an oddity in all kinds of ways in this, and decides, after a little while, at least briefly, to try and reinvent himself as one of those go-getters. It's a multifaceted commentary on a lot. I think that I've thought about it a lot since I read it. I think there was probably quite a bit that I missed. So I'm happy to have it again. This is let's see here, $17 paperback that's probably out in your bookstores now. Then we have something for December. This is way down the line, but Black Buck did not come with a pub sheet, but this one does. So I can read this to you. This is a favorite of mine. I don't want to block the bean. We'll leave her in the frame there. This is Showstopper by Peter Lovesey. You've got advanced, uncopy edited edition right there on the slate. I imagine that the cover will obviously the slate will just be empty, or maybe something clever will be put in the middle there. Let's see what we have here. This is going to be a $28 hardcover coming out on December 6th, so right before Christmas. At 86 years old, Peter Lovesey is a marvel. I totally agree. He has been named a grandmaster of the mystery genre on both sides of the pond. One of 3 authors who can boast of this. So you can be nominated as a grandmaster in the UK and also in America. And he's been named a grandmaster in both. I wonder who the other 2 writers are. I wonder. Is Mary Roberts Reinhardt one of them? I don't know. And at this stage in his career, you would be forgiven for thinking that the prolific Lovesey might begin to take it easy. But lucky for readers, delivering yet another he is with delivering yet another meticulous mystery. So the plot: in the 6 years since the start of the hit British TV show Swift, its cast and crew have been plagued by misfortune, beginning with the star actress pulling out of the show before it began. By now there have been multiple injuries by fall, fire, and drowning, 2 deaths, and 2 missing persons cases. The media quickly decides it's a curse, but who's to say there isn't a criminal conspiracy afoot? Now that the filming has moved to Bath, Peter Diamond, chief of the Avon and Somerset murder squad, is on the case. While the investigation into the fatal accident is underway, a cameraman goes missing, challenging even the most credulous to wonder if he might have been the victim of foul play rather than a jinx. How can so many things go wrong on the set in such a short time? Complicating already complex matters is the fact that Diamond's boss is trying her best to get rid of him. He may be forced to retire if he can't solve the case. Will this be the end of Peter Diamond? Judging just from the plot description, I can already solve the case. It's the actress who left the show. She's behind it all. It's the actress who left the show. But that is so obvious that I'm sure Peter Lovesey will either prove me wrong or make that irresistible. Just make that perfectly done. So did I mention already? Yeah, this comes out on December 6th. Here, let me fix this pub sheet. One of a few titles of interest that I see coming out in December. This next one is not coming out until the spring. This comes out in 2023. And we're going to have our issues. The author and I are going to have our issues. This is The Shotgun Conservationist, Why Environmentalists Should Love Hunting. And it's by Brant McDuff. Very nice cover. Let's see how irritated we can get. The intersection of hunting and environmentalism is a source of continual debate. With imperiled public lands, factory farms polluting the earth and subjecting animals to inhumane conditions, and global uncertainty pressing us all to be more self-sufficient, the choices surrounding meat consumption have never been more fraught. Like many people, natural historian Brant McDuff existed as a guilty meat eater, thinking it could only be done one way, and that way was bad for the earth. Fascinated by how animals fit into the puzzle of our human-built environments, food systems, and our inability to extricate ourselves from the natural world, Brant discovered a solution that is both ethical and sustainable: hunting. In this book, he shares his personal journey from hating hunting as a child to learning whole animal butchering as one of New York's most prestigious butchers and holding hunting licenses in 4 states. By exploring the value and nuances of sustainable hunting with the help of fascinating research and a colorful cast of characters, his evolution from staunch anti-hunter to ethical hunter weaves together a larger story about humans, animals, the environment, and our food systems. Provocative, humorous, and insightful, this book offers a new perspective on ethical hunting and how it can be an act of conservation. It's not an act of conservation to the people you kill. They are dead. You have killed them. They would have lived. They did not want to die. You killed them. So you're not conserving them. You're conserving some broader, intangible them with a capital T, but you're not conserving the actual people that you kill, or in the case of the fish on the cover, torture to death. Now, you can say, surely me going out into the wilderness is better for the environment, hunting a deer, whole body butchering it, and having meat, preserves, and all sorts of other things for a year. Surely that's better than me using factory farmed meat. But what's the assumption smuggled in there, buried in either of those arguments? That you eat meat. You do not need to eat meat. You do not need to become an ethical environmentalist. You do not need to become an ethical hunter. You can simply be a big boy and remove meat from your diet. Instead of saying, well, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I mean, I want 2 pounds of meat a day. Factory farming is so bad for the environment. I don't know how good for the environment it is for Brant McDuff to get in his Range Rover and drive to one of the 4 states where he's licensed to kill things. But you're agonizing over that. You know, it's so bad for the environment. And I hate the stories that I read about how inhumanely these animals are treated in these gigantic warehouses that provide me with my meat. But I have to have 2 pounds of meat a day. So what's the alternative? I guess instead of them being killed in some sort of inhumane factory, I could become really proficient at cannon-powered firearms and go out hunting to kill them myself for my 2 pounds of meat a day. When the solution to ethical conservationism, why environmentalists certainly shouldn't like hunting, is to just remove meat from your diet. Then none of them are dying. And if you are so enamored of your daily Big Mac that you will respond to that by saying, well, what about the factory farms? What would happen to them then? I'm certain that we could find something that would happen to them. I'm certain that we could find a way. But we're never going to, so we're never going to, despite the fact that it was almost certainly from a wet market designed to provide those 2 pounds of meat a day, that we got COVID-19, and that we will certainly get the next 2 or 3 deadly pandemics. We're not talking about any of that. I'm not talking about public health. I'm talking about the fact that the animal you put in your sights and pull a trigger on doesn't want you to kill it any more than you would. And you have an alternative. You have an easily accessible alternative. Anyway, you hunters out there are certainly going to want to read this, I bet. I've hardly ever known a hunter in my life who did not say at some point that they were also an environmentalist. Going all the way back to Theodore Roosevelt. I've hardly ever known a hunter that didn't say that. And I know that they mean it, and I know that their heart's in the right place, and I always want to say, and a couple of times over wine and calzones I have said, you're saying you're doing the animals a favor when you're going out there blowing their heads off. You're not doing anybody a favor to do that. Culling a deer herd instead of killing it. We saw that in the cover of the Martha's Vineyard Gazette. The deer hunting season has opened, and the deer are plentiful. Like the one is supposed to balance out the other. Humans are plentiful. There are 9 billion humans on Earth. Do you want someone to say, well, the human herd needs culling, so I'm gonna put my scope on you from 100 miles away and blow your head off your body in front of your children? Would you agree to that because the human herd needs culling? I don't think so. It's just more human exceptionalism. It's just these animals are out there. They are a raw resource. They're ours to do with as we please. But anyway, we didn't avoid a rant with that one. But I will still read. Oh my God. Okay, Brant McDuff is incredibly young. To think that sweet face has killed the people that I would otherwise have liked to get to know. Heartbreaking. But anyway, we'll move on. To a book that I think we've seen on this channel before. This is the finished copy of something that I think we've seen before. I'm pretty sure this is an October release. This is by Israel Knoll, and it is The Messiah Confrontation. Pharisees versus Sadducees and the Death of Jesus. Which it's the Jewish Publication Society. I don't know why, but I didn't think I was ever going to get a finished copy of this. Happy to have it, though. Let me reintroduce you to this. This is fascinating. I really need to get to this now that I have a hardcover. This book casts new and fascinating light on why Jesus was killed. Grounded in meticulous research on the messianism debates in the Bible and during the Second Temple period, biblical scholar Israel Knoll argues that Jesus' trial was in reality a dramatic clash between 2 Jewish groups holding opposing ideologies of messianism and anti-messianism, with both ideologies running through the Bible. The Pharisees, forefathers of the rabbinic sages, and most of the Jewish people had a conception of the Messiah similar to Jesus. Like the prophets and most psalmists, they expected the arrival of a godlike Messiah. However, the judges who sentenced Jesus to death were Sadducees, who were fighting with the Pharisees largely because they repudiated the Messiah idea. Thus, the trial of Jesus was not a clash between Jewish and what would become Christian doctrines, but a confrontation between 2 internal Jewish positions, expecting a Messiah or rejecting the Messiah idea, in which Jesus and the Pharisees were actually on the same side. So, as I mentioned when we talked about the advanced copy of this thing, I'm on board completely, absolutely completely. The only thing left, the subject is fascinating, the angle is fascinating. Again, I mention all the time when it comes to a reinterpretation of history like this that I love that sort of thing. Go and do the research, get all of your ducks in a row, write your book, and I want my ideas of what I think is true to be challenged. I want you to challenge them and see if you can change them. All of that is in place for this. The only thing that's not in place, the only thing I don't know is how well it's written. How well is it done? Which is, unfortunately, for the death of all great ideas, unfortunately, that is the most important thing. I will put this on the list very soon. I have a lot of reading to do this weekend, but this goes on the list because I think this is coming up. This next one is a finished copy of something I believe we've seen on this channel already. Pretty sure that we saw an advanced copy of this thing. Oh, good. I have a pub sheet. This is from the folks at W.W. Norton. This is by Dan Flores, and it is Wild New World, the epic story of animals and people in America. This is a subject I just love. I eat this stuff up. In 1908, near Folsom, New Mexico, a cowboy discovered the remains of a herd of extinct giant bison. By examining flint points embedded in the bones, archaeologists later determined that a band of humans had killed and butchered the animals 12,450 years ago. This discovery vastly expanded America's known human history, but also revealed the long-standing danger. This discovery vastly expanded America's known human history, but also revealed the long-standing danger Homo sapiens presented to the continent's evolutionary richness. Nice understatement there. This book chronicles the epoch in which humans and animals have coexisted in the wild new world of North America, a place shaped both by its own grand evolutionary forces and by momentous arrivals from Asia, Africa, and Europe. The arrival of humans precipitated an extraordinary disruption of life in the North American continent. Our long past as carnivorous hunters helped us settle America, initially establishing a coast-to-coast culture that lasted longer than the present United States. But humanity's success had devastating consequences for other creatures. In this book, the author traces the origin of today's sixth extinction to the spread of humans around the world, tracks the story of 100 centuries of Native America, explains how old world ideologies precipitated 400 years of market-driven slaughter that devastated so many ancient American species, and explores the decline and miraculous recovery of species in recent decades. Okay. Well, the key difference between this thing and the advanced copy that we already saw is that this will have illustrations. Yes. Oh, look at that. I turned right away to a pretty illustration. Oh, there are my babies. Oh, so sweet. Oh, I wonder, they've never had any baths. Who else is in here? There'll be a lot of cruelty in this book. A lot. Now that I think about it. This is another one that I haven't got to, but there'll be a lot of cruelty in here. Mountains and mountains of slaughtered animals. So this goes rather well with the hunting. Do we have any color illustrations? Let's see. Wow. No. Okay, no. Maybe as a cost-cutting exercise? Well, this is $30, so it can't cost all that much. There's plenty of illustrations in here, but they're all black and white. There's Rachel Carson. There's no inset of color photos in the middle of it, but it's a fascinating subject. Prehistoric America. It's a fascinating subject. So this is out now. Did I say a date? I have a pub sheet on it. This is the end of October. This is October book, the end of October. I will certainly be reviewing it for Open Letters Review. The next thing is a work of nonfiction that I'm looking forward to, hoping that it's really good. This comes out in mid-November. It's by Frank Decoder, and it is China After Mao, The Rise of a Superpower. This is the author of How to Be a Dictator. That got a lot of press, got a lot of people's radar for that book. This, let's see what we have here. This is a myth-shattering history of China spanning the death of Chairman Mao to Xi Jinping from internationally renowned historian Frank Decoder. One of the leading China scholars in the world and the winner of the Samuel Johnson Prize, he is the author of the People's Trilogy, Mao's Great Famine, which covered the famine between 1958 and 1962, The Tragedy of Liberation. I think I reviewed Mao's Great Famine for somebody when it came out. The Tragedy of Liberation, which focused on the Chinese Revolution from 1945 to 1957, and the Cultural Revolution, which explored China from 1962 to 1976. Now he turns his focus to recent Chinese history in China After Mao, offering a clear-eyed, deeply researched view of the country in the last half-century. Now I'm wondering if did I review Mao's Great Famine? I'm pretty sure that I did. Well, anyway, I'm greatly looking forward to this. It doesn't come out until, another month, so I have time to wait on it. But things like these three hardcovers, these are the sorts of things where if they interest you, you can get on your library to get them for you, in case they haven't ordered a copy for the collection. Then we'll finish up with this last one, which I think I told you about But I had not been able then to show it to you. This is from the University of Chicago Press. I don't have a sheet on this. I'm assuming that it's this month. I'm assuming that it's either out now or it's coming out in October. This is by Stephen Nadler, and it is called The Portraitist, Franz Hals and His World. There's Franz Hals looking like he pretty much always did. And this has black and white and full color art reproductions of all of his major works, including the handful of major works that he's famous for. But it is a biography of him as well, and the first Franz Hals biography in quite some time in English. What have we got here? I don't have a sheet for this. He was one of the greatest portrait painters in history, and his style transformed ideas and expectations about what portrait can do and what a painting should look like. He was a member of the great trifecta of Dutch Baroque painters alongside Rembrandt and Vermeer. And he was the portraitist of choice for entrepreneurs, merchants, professionals, theologians, intellectuals, militiamen, and even his fellow artists in the Dutch Golden Age. His works, with their visible brushstrokes and bold execution, lacked the fine detail and smooth finish common among his peers, and some dismissed his works as sloppy and unfinished. But for others, they were fresh and exciting, filled with a sense of the sitter's animated presence captured with energy and immediacy. Stephen Nadler gives us the first full-length biography of Hals in many years and offers a view into 17th century Haarlem and this culturally rich era of the Dutch Republic. He tells the story not only of Hals's life, but also of the artistic, social, and political and religious worlds in which he lived and worked. Fantastic. I'm going to wish that it were longer, I'm sure, but maybe not. If the author is a wooden stylist, then I won't be. But it's richly illustrated. That's great. And I know a lot about this author, but mainly from a novel called The Lost Diaries of Franz Hals, not mainly from biographical works. There was one in the great old days of Boston. Oh, God. It must be 130 or 140 years old. I had it once upon a time. I found a copy at the Brattle Bookshop, which is pretty much the only place where you would find such a thing. And I don't have it anymore. I can't remember anything about it. I liked it. It was big and rich and atmospheric in a way that this will not be. This will be far more astringent and clinical, the way a lot of biographies are these days. No criticism. A lot of them are great that way. But the turn of the 20th century was different. The tone, the tenor, the executional method of a biography was usually very different. And I had one on Franz Hals. Now I wish I'd kept it. Well, I'll look in my reading journal and see if I have any details about it, but I'll never see it again unless the Brattle provides. But you artists out there, people who are interested in art biography, we have a biography of Franz Hals, the portraitist. We have China After Mao by a very good writer. We have Wild New World by Dan Flores, who did, also a very good writer. He did a very well written but very intensely depressing book called Coyote America. It's well worth your time to read, even though, make sure you have a strong stomach. The Messiah Confrontation, a study of who exactly put Jesus to death and why. Shotgun Conservationist, a book claiming that arming yourself with a weapon of war and going out into the woods to shoot someone who's just foraging for food is better than eating a meat that comes from a factory farm. Is that contention true? And if it's true, if we grant it, if it's true, does it matter? Fascinating. Tempers run hot on this subject on both sides. I can't wait to read it and see whether or not the author convinces me of any part of his contention. Then we have Showstopper by Peter Lovesey. Enough said, really, at this point in his career. And finally, Black Buck by Mateo Askaripour in a lovely Mariner paperback here that has the step back for the reviews that praised it, including Ron Charles, the Washington Post. So that's some mail that we opened off camera. So I've had the usual 8 books today, but I managed to get some of them open on camera, which is the whole point of the thing. And those are all the new books. So my videos today were mail, a couple of books that I opened on camera, new arrivals, a whole bunch of books that I opened off camera, and a Brattle trip that had a stack of books as long as your arm. That's a lot of bookish content for one day. I'm pretty sure you've seen enough of me for today. So we will resume tomorrow. Thank you, BookTube.